The worst mistake I ever made on crypto Twitter was the MetaMask incident, the infamous "Do you know who I am?" tweet.
Which I alluded to in the intro.
And if you look at it from my perspective, I was looking at it like a CEO. I had just launched a product, Icarus, which turned into Yoroi. Now 20% of the Cardano network is on it. It's a Chrome extension. And MetaMask had been delisted and literally got delisted the day that we launched Icarus. And I'm thinking, oh God, is this now a Google crackdown? Did I just spend 6 months building something that I have no distribution with? And the MetaMask team's very small, and I didn't have anybody's email, and I'm desperately trying to get in contact with them to get the inside story. So I pinged these guys over Twitter because I've pinged everybody over Twitter. I talked to so many people. I've even talked to Jack Dorsey over Twitter through PMs, and I couldn't send them a PM directly. So I just tweet them saying, hey, I need to talk to you guys. Can you send me a private message? And then they say, hey, just send something to the support email. And I'm thinking, it's a small open source project. They have a huge user base. If I send it to the support email, I'm going to get a reply in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. This is just how this world works. And guys, I'm the CEO of a big company in this space. Come on, you would give Vitalik, Joe Lubin, Dan Lambert, you give anybody, a PM. That's just let's be reasonable about this. Come on. And I say that, because I was in Vietnam at the time I sent that tweet. I actually had the flu. I wasn't feeling very good. I'd been traveling a bit, and I was just pissed off by that. I was like, this has nothing to do with you just routing support email. You know exactly who I am, and because you're on the Ethereum side and I'm on the Cardano side, you're just dissing me over Twitter. And you're hurting yourself. Come on. And if I was your boss, I would be like, this is ridiculous. If I was the CEO of Ford and contacting somebody from GM, do you think they'd tell the CEO, oh, no, use the support email? Come on. This is ridiculous. This has nothing to do with ego. It has to do with professionalism or rapport. So I send that tweet, and then immediately it blows up to this. Charles Hoskinson is the guy who yells at people at the check-in desk at the hotel. And when the waiter doesn't show up fast enough, is the dick with the waiter. And it's just my whole character became an entire tweet. And everybody dogpiled. They made T-shirts about it. They still talk about it today at conferences as if this is the man. Meanwhile, they never thought about the commercial reality. They never thought about the context of this. They never thought about the fact that 140 characters don't define a person, and they never even looked at it from another perspective other than the words themselves. And so this is the problem with social media, is people want simple answers to complicated situations. People want to compress an entire human being to a certain statement, and then they use confirmation bias to double down on that, and then it gets so bizarre it becomes a parody of itself. Where have I ever been the arrogant asshole in this entire space? We have examples of that. Look at Craig Wright. He shows up in Rwanda. I was there. And he said, I have more money than your country. That's how he opened his speech. I spent 10 minutes in the backstage with him, the most thoroughly despicable 10 minutes, where he wouldn't even give us the time of day. He was looking at his cell phone the entire time while we were talking to each other, and he would only look up to yell at us. And then he just bragged about how big his patent portfolio is and how we're all criminals and he's the only guy who's the harbinger of truth. Those are the people in the space that are arrogant assholes. What have we done? Everything we do is open source. We write papers with anybody who wants to write papers with us. We've never written a patent in the entire history of the company. All of our code is open source. We've brought up tons of entrepreneurs in this space. For example, Alex Chirpinoy with Scorex, which led to the Waves project and a litany of other things. We spent $1.5 million building up Ethereum Classic, and we released everything for free to that ecosystem. We make no money on that. You can just look at the track record of the last 5 years of the contributions we've made, even in the Ethereum space where they brutally criticize us. We went ahead and financed the KEVM semantics, the first set of formal semantics for Ethereum. At one time, we had a fully working Ethereum node, full client. Mantis worked with both Ethereum Classic and Ethereum. And we never asked for anything in return. We never told them how to do their job. I certainly criticize people like Tezos. Yeah, because there was just really bad stuff. They had to spend $60 million to clean up their bad stuff, and absolutely they put a guy they couldn't control into the foundation. He didn't share the vision of the founders, and they built themselves in an 8.5% guaranteed return on retail investor money. So of course I'm going to criticize them. EOS, of course I'm going to criticize them for raising $4 billion and saying they have no fiduciary obligation to their investors and having a very haphazard launch and a litany of problems that are still not resolved to today. Yes, that's commercial criticism. And that's conduct criticism. It's fact-based. It's based on things that people did, and it's based on things that hurt not rich people, but poor people. So I'm going to have a difference of opinion, and I'm going to have, when I see these things, point them out. On the other hand, if Tezos came to us today and said, we'd like to co-author a governance paper with you guys, we'd say, sure, as long as it's released under an open source license, absolutely. If the EOS guys came to us today and said, we'd love IOHK to build a DSL, we'd say, sure, as long as it's released under an open source license and it has real benefit, we'll go do that for you guys. And we're happy to work with anybody, whether on Ethereum or anything else. There's never ego or any of these things in our commercial relationships. But if you go to crypto Twitter, you'd assume that we're just these super narcissistic, hyper partisan, everybody else must die, and it's a big cult of personality around Charles Hoskinson. Meanwhile, if you watch my presentations, what do I say? Kill the founders. Trust the process over the people. Don't trust us, trust the science. Use the peer review process. Create common source of truth with formal methods that's implementation agnostic, so you can have a diversity of implementations by independent teams. Decentralized decision making. Decentralized funding with treasury mechanisms. These are not the goals and aspirations of a cult of personality or somebody who thinks they have the right to control everything or control you. These are the aspirations of a person that wants to let the ecosystem go and be Darwinian in control of the users, not one company. But crypto Twitter just doesn't seem to get that. They just want to compress people to a little thing. But here's the thing. I have a great life. So to quote Herman Cain's mother, I does not care. I have a farm. I have donkeys. I have chickens. I have geese. I have great parents. My brother's a doctor. I talk to him all the time. Life is good for me. So it's not real life. That's just shallowness, and that's just the id of the internet and passing thoughts. And if you let it bother you, it's never going to be fair. You're never going to win. You're going to be like on the rapids, basically at the mercy of the river. Or what you can do is just ignore the whole damn thing, build stuff, and control the narrative, as I mentioned. And then over time, people will actually converge to the right opinions. And they'll see what you've done and what you've contributed. And that's what's happening, as reflected in the adoption of ADA and as reflected by the interest we've gotten in the ecosystem.